Yeah, the first time I was alone with him was the first time that he was inappropriate with me, and he had me give him oral, and he paid me for it, and he told me to clean myself up and not to tell anybody. I was there, I had my top down.
Wow. And how old are you at this?
Clean yourself up.
How old are you at this time?
I was 16. Favors for diversion, favors for to pay a fine off, take care of a ticket. I mean, various things. In the chambers, somewhere in the courthouse, there's rooms all over the courthouse that I've been taken to over the years. I've met him like at the strip job in Whitesburg, different places of residence. It just escalated from there. It went to having sex parties and getting high with them, doing performances with other women, they would have other men have sex with us on watch. And that continued up until I started going to jail and stuff, and they sent me off to rehab at the age of 20 after my mom died. He just started introducing me to his friends, and like it was just made very clear that like that's where my value was.
Were you getting paid all the time for this?
That didn't matter.
Was
what?
Was he paying? You said the first time he threw money at you. Is that the nature of the relationship?
He paid for it. He paid for it, yeah, throughout up until I started getting in trouble, and then it became about my court cases.
When you group them together, why do you group them together as a they? Like, what type of people are we talking about?
The higher-ups of Letcher County. It's the other attorneys, the people who work in the jail. It's the whole system, courthouse, basement to roof.
And
pretty much in the buildings surrounding too. There's a lot of like other attorneys and even some like doctors and stuff in town that are involved in these parties that they would have in the various things to different degrees.
Okay, you mentioned parties. Describe to me where that would take place, how it would happen. Again, without naming names, but like who would be there, how many people?
I mean, it would vary. They had different places, residences, apartments that were just like sex rooms, with swings and mirrored ceilings and things like that.
Is this all
There's more than one of those.
Is this all in town? This is all done?
No, and in surrounding counties too.
What went through your mind when you heard that the sheriff had shot and killed the judge?
Because finally somebody has to look and see what they're doing here. They can't look away anymore. We have a chance to get help.
What are your thoughts about the sheriff?
He's my hero. I mean, I'm sure that he's not a perfect man. Nobody is. But he's my hero, regardless.
It is going to be relevant because up until this point, Vinny, some of the more leading theories about why Sheriff Stein's allegedly murdered the judge is that maybe he was having a psychotic break. The attention was on him, maybe his dysfunction, what was going on in his mind. Some of that may still apply, but now there's this other reason that perhaps he had a rationale for wanting to harm the judge, or at least to threaten the judge, because he knew of all of these alleged crimes that he was doing behind the scenes that no one was talking about openly. And so not only is that going to have a big impact on the jury's perception of the character of the defendant, it's also going to put in some other ideas and reasons for why he pulled the trigger that day. And I think that is going to be relevant in this case.
Paulette, this is such a big part of this story, but Dr. Judy Ho just said that magic word, right? The character of the victim. And I know prosecutors are going to fight tooth and nail to keep all of this out. As a matter of fact, so Paulette, what are your thoughts about the relevance, though? Because to me, it just seems like it is all part of whatever ended up manifesting itself inside the chambers that day.
I think relevance is going to be a little bit tricky. Obviously, like you just said, the prosecution is going to want to keep this out. So is this evidence relevant in the regular trial and not just as a defense? No. I think that defense may want to use this as jury nullification. Look here, the judge was a bad guy, and maybe get the jury to think, wow, this sheriff really did the county and this city a favor. The judge absolutely wouldn't allow it in for that. But when we're taking a look at his mental status, we're going to have to find out when he became aware of these allegations. Obviously, we know that he was deposed in the week leading up to this event. So we know that he had some knowledge of some complaints of women or other people in the community. But how much did he know? Did all of a sudden on this particular day, he find out much more information and he snapped? And he had this emotional disturbance? I think then it would absolutely be relevant. A doctor could testify and explain, the examination that he or she performed on the sheriff. And the sheriff would obviously be telling this doctor what pushed him over the edge to make him decide that this was the only action he could take on that day. So I think it's going to be relevant from that perspective, but any other way to bring it in, I think the prosecution is going to have a very, very strong objection.
Dr. Judy Ho, I had an opportunity to speak with the sheriff's attorney, and while he couldn't tell us everything, obviously, what I sort of gathered from what he was telling me is that this defense, which is a mental health defense, is somehow grounded in some level of fact. I'm interested in your opinion on, can someone be delusional to a certain extent, but that delusion is grounded in some level of fact, and those facts would be relevant to what was going on in Letcher County with all these women and these charges and the lawsuit. Does that happen? Do people somehow break from reality as a result of something that is real?
It's a very good question, Vinny. And when we talk about delusions, it's not the same as hallucinations, which is basically, for example, imagining that someone's in the room in front of you when there's absolutely no one in the room. There's voices talking, there's no one there. Delusions are grounded in some aspect of reality, and then the rest of it is on a spectrum. So a delusion would be, oh, I see somebody looking at me. I think that person might be the FBI and they're investigating me for some reason, right? But the person is there and the person is looking at them. So that's what I mean by all delusions are still somewhat grounded in one aspect of reality, but where it goes into the slope and being diagnosed as a mental disorder is, well, now the break from reality is so significant that it doesn't matter where the grounding started. It's so far away from any evidence that you're no longer rooted in reality. I think that's going to be a key investigation in this case, and what they're going to have to pull apart during the whole deliberations and the entire trial is this actually still grounded in reality to a large extent, or was there a nugget of truth and then it just blew up in Mickey Steins' mind that led to that tragic day?
There's no way he didn't know. Everybody knows.
Everybody knows. It's common knowledge out there.
Mm-hmm. There are hundreds of victims. That's not an exaggeration.
Prosecutors want it moved out of Letcher County. What's really going on here? Could it be that everyone in Letcher County, like Taya Adams was saying, knows about all of this corrupt behavior and they don't want to put this case in front of them?
Oh, I think that's absolutely what's happening here. It hardly ever happens that the prosecution asks for a change of venue. It is always us defense attorneys pounding our fists saying our client cannot get a fair trial here. So first, hearing that it's the prosecution making this motion, that raises some eyebrows in my mind. And I think you're right. If we are believing Taya Adams, that there are hundreds or even thousands of victims and that everyone in town, especially if they've been in the legal system, knows how dirty that this game is and how this judge was a part of it, maybe the prosecution is a little fearful that the jury may not examine the case as if they had, loving thoughts of this judge, and maybe there will be a problem for the prosecution. So I think you're right. I think that they know that they may not get a fair shake here.
Now, Dr. Judy Ho, Prosecutors, again, it's prosecutors, want a second mental health evaluation from this neutral expert. The first one, we don't know what the results are, but my guess is it probably is pretty favorable to the defense because they want it released and prosecutors want a do-over.
Right. And Vinny, this probably happens more than we know, and there's a lot of different reasons for it. But if they truly believe, for example, that the first evaluation, if it is neutral, had flawed methodology, they missed some things, they can just get a rebuttal expert basically to talk about how flawed that was and how you should basically just throw that evaluation out. So my thought for them wanting to get their own evaluation, perhaps with a psychologist or psychiatrist that they approve of, is they want to find some way to challenge the first evaluation's results because they actually think that it holds some water. If you think that first psychological evaluation wasn't good at all, there's easier ways to challenge that by utilizing a rebuttal expert to basically rip that evaluation apart and say, we shouldn't even care about this evaluation. It says nothing and tells us nothing useful about the defendant.